Welcome back to the Authenticity Calling podcast. I'm your host, Ralitza Spassova, and today I'm being joined by such a gift in my own personal life and in the life of so many authors, Krystal Hill, the CEO of Hill House Publishing, the woman who called me out of my shell to finally do the thing that's been waiting for me, that's been knocking on my door. And I finally said, yes, Krystal, welcome to the Authenticity Calling podcast. I am so honored to have you here.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here. And I just really feel that connection. It was such a synchronistic connection that happened. And I don't even know how it happened, but it was like that the magic of, I think it was the magic of Facebook was suddenly just clicked and
That's right.
connected.
That's right. That's exactly how it happened. And it's funny. I just posted our first interview and I looked at myself, Krystal. Honestly, I look like a shell of a human. Again, I wrote about it in my chapter, but all of the things start to happen and they get us to this state of self-rejection. And it's not until that moment where we've really seemingly forgotten that an angel comes into our life to remind us of who we are. And I think you were that person for me to remind me that there's something so important that I cannot neglect it any longer. And I just want to thank you, like from the bottom of my heart, from the depths of my soul. Thank you.
Wow, I love that the universe chose me to facilitate that for you. Because, when we are becoming that role, that person for somebody, it is never like an ego perspective, an ego intention. It's just, that thing of show me, use me as thy instrument. I have that mantra every once in a while. I would love to do it, and I more often. And so that's one of those moments when that is enacted. And I'm just so grateful when these moments happen because they lift all of us up.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was undeniable. I mean, I know what resonance feels like when I'm in alignment because I've gone through those stages of not being there and having little tiny glimpses of them and then falling back into the habits and patterns and then, getting another glimpse. But lately I had started to live my life where it was constant synchronicity. And I didn't even realize when I fell out of that alignment that you were there to remind me, like, hey, remember that path? And I was like, oh, right. What was I thinking?
Yes, and I love that you're mentioning that. It's like, our book is called Beyond Coincidence, Visionaries. Visionaries unlock the mysteries of synchronicities and success. And so my intention when this came through was to not just create a book for the readers, but to create a book that becomes a living practice for all of us who are involved in it. And that was exactly my intention, to help us, all the authors and contributors, to increase the synchronicities in our lives, to come even more strongly into alignment with that, that purpose that you're speaking of. So I'm so happy to hear you're sharing that, because for me, that's really what it's all about. It's to create, as a publisher, to offer and create these transformational experiences for purpose-led entrepreneurs, for those who are here because they know they have a higher calling, and to help them to embody that just that little bit more. And you're sharing that as just a confirmation that that is exactly what happens in these
Oh,
containers.
it is exactly what happens. Even the interviews with the other co-authors that I've done on the podcast, and they're going to be launching all this week, but they are such confirmations of this being the perfect timing and alignment for them to claim that. And once you claim it, that is the magic of synchronicity. Once you claim that path, everything flows, as you said, right? The
That's
other thing
it.
that I want to share is I don't know if anybody else has told you this, but you are not just a publisher, you are truly a healer. And through this process of writing, through this process of tuning us in, even the very first meeting where we just streamed consciousness and where we just free wrote the meditation and even the guidance before that, that you gave us, bringing us to our origin story. I remember it like it was yesterday because it brought me full circle into my spirit. A lot of what I do for other people, I call it's life alchemy. It's really remembering what was the path that you've been through to bring you here and why are you really here. And you said visionary, and it's something that, you know, like I, for the first time in my life, I felt seen when I got glasses in 6th grade. So that showed me I am a visionary, and that's something that I get to claim. But it's through that story. And it was just such a healing journey and experience writing this and rewriting it and rewriting it and having to really dive into that version of myself that I had rejected to find the confidence and the capacity to, I mean, really, truly trust what was coming through. But then also, as the journey of writing came and as our meetings came, it was in perfect alignment to get me to question my certain belief systems that I had written originally, and to get me to really sit with myself when I wasn't sure if I was ready to share certain things. And all of the conversations, everyone else that was in that space, everyone that you called, it was so divine. Like, it is just such a juicy, beautiful community and container to be in. And especially as a first time author, I it's beyond words, it's beyond coincidence, it's just beyond the human experience. So thank you.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I had shivers when you were sharing that, because again, you know, I do know that I'm a healer. In fact, I have trained in healing modalities, and having come from being a transformational life coach and holding transformational spaces, both as a facilitator of groups, but also one-on-one, and bringing that then into publishing, because that's what I was looking at, and I'm looking at even more, you know, and even just today it dropped in this title of Hill House Publishing, and the subtitle being Creating Transformational Books and Transformational Experiences.
That's right.
So it's no longer just the writing of the books, but it's also, you know, creating these experiences for you in this container, but then also in a broader scale, creating workshops and using writing for healing, even without the intention of necessarily publishing a book, but really just creating these transformational experiences so we can all come into our highest timeline, our highest potential. And I feel, yeah, I've had such an eclectic path, you know, from being a theater director, bringing the best out of the actors and seeing them and activating them into their true potential as a performer, to then helping just everyday, you know, my clients to come into releasing maybe stories that no longer serve them by claiming them and transforming them. And that's, you know, that's what you were sharing just then as well, this having to sit with maybe some of the rejected aspects of your story and seeing what the magic and the gift is in them, and in doing so alchemizing them and transforming them to bringing them more into power. Because when we look at our story and we realize, oh my God, there's still a bit of shame,
That's
we
right.
get to heal that, we get to transform that, and that comes through this reflective process that I take everyone through, whether that's in the multi-author compilation books, or whether that's in their solo books, because I do that same exercise with everyone, because we have to start from ourselves before we can share anything with the world. Like, why do we do what we do? It comes out of that exercise I took you through.
And it's such a beautiful space, because it's not something that I think I could have done by myself. You know, many people in the healing space encourage journaling, and we encourage sharing. And I think now with social media, the beautiful side of it, everyone talks about the ugly sides of social media, but I think the beautiful side of social media is that we can express ourselves, and we're becoming a lot more comfortable to express ourselves and just to put in writing some of those things that we may not have done in the past, right? We may not have taken pen to paper, but there's something so powerful about being called forward and being held in a clean container. And when we talk about coaching, I talk about this on my podcast, is how important it is for the coach to do their own healing work as well, so that they're not projecting onto their clients. I think it's equally as important when you're creating anything into the world, when you're a vessel for that, to really hold integrity for the purpose of the creation. Because it makes a huge difference if you're being published by a publisher who wants to make money, or you're being published by a publisher who has their own agenda, or who has their own take on how your story is meant to be put out there. And it changes and it really shifts. And if you're not careful, your story becomes, somebody else's lie, right? And so to me, I think it's really, really important to differentiate and to really discern and to really be in our alignment before making a commitment to create something into the world with someone else. And that can be that can be romantic relationships, that can be friendships, that can be any kind of business, but especially when you're writing a book, it is something that is going to be there forever. And it's a big deal. It's like you're birthing a baby with someone. It really has to be that alignment has to be there from the beginning, and that integrity has to be so pure. So I know for me that's what sets you apart from other publishers. And I'm curious what your perspective is on that. What do you feel sets you apart from other publishing companies?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. For me, like I know I'm coming into this space with the intention to elevate my authors. Anybody who comes in, my intention is that they come out as more in alignment with who they are, more confident, and therefore able to embody their soul purpose in a deeper way and attract more of the clients that they want to have coming. I think one thing that I have as a unique gift is that I am an activator and I can see people.
Oh,
So I
tell us
will not
about that. Yeah.
impose myself, right?
Yeah.
But what I can do is in my presence and in the conversations that we have is to activate you to remember what is important, to inspire you to step into that space where you can receive your download. I think that is something that I have uniquely, and that's been reflected back to me over and over, working with women or, clients one-on-one. We have this conversation and they are in their story, and we all get into our story, and we can't see the wood for the trees and the trees for the wood, or whatever the expression is. And then to have that person, in my case, me reflecting it back and saying, okay, so this is the journey, and to clearly see the patterns. Like, I've studied human behavior since I was a teenager in literature. And so I've become a master at seeing patterns, at seeing motivations, at seeing the structure that's underpinning the story, and teasing out the universal themes and reflecting that back, and really looking at, okay, so the first thing is we just write, right? We kind of have that verbal diarrhea. We let it all out. We don't edit it. And then we reflect. What am I sharing? We shift the lens from the me perspective to the you perspective, to serving the reader with it. And I think that's another thing that I'm really strong on. It's what is your message to the reader? What is that one core message? And I think, yeah, and even not in my graceful way, I can be blunt, and I'm direct, but I think you probably, you should say more than me. I feel like I'm very graceful in the way that I am able to reflect things back, but there's still, I don't beat about the bush. And I think there was one lady in our book particular, and she said, "Oh, I thank you so much for saying this, because now I know my core message. I hadn't seen it before."
That's right.
And here was I in my ego thinking, I hope she's not taking it the wrong way, and I hope, because it needed to be said, right?
Yes.
And she took it exactly how I was intending it, because my intention came across. And so that guidance and that feedback and that reflection and that care, I feel like that's something that lights me up. That's where I feel I'm like, yeah, that gives me energy when I can come into that kind of engagement and relationship with the writers.
Beautiful. I love that. And absolutely, I felt it myself. I think you circled back even to me a few times, and it didn't really make sense right away. But you kept pushing on and kind of bringing me back full circle. And I think that's what gave me the ability to first take my time. But something you said to me is, you have to create the space, the intentional space to write, because I was really wanting it to channel. And for me, when alignment comes, because I'm a generator in the human design, and I really need to be inspired, internally inspired. and that for that creativity to flow through me, for me to actually put pen to paper and do something productive. And you invited me into the practice, you know, really that masculine structure that sometimes I need, that safety to just do it, and we'll figure it out, and just create that intentional space and put it out. And I did have a lot of resistance around it, and there was so much healing that was happening in that time. So I'm just so grateful for you that you didn't allow my resistance, for me maintaining my resistance, first of all, to get in the way, because your due dates are, they're hard due dates, but you're also flexible with them in that encouraging space of, you know what, we said we're going to do this, we're going to do this, let's just do it. And that's exactly the softness that you're talking about. But at the same time, that passion, I can't even call it fire, because fire hurts a little bit. I don't feel that from you, but I really feel a passion and a really strong intention and purpose that this is happening. It's not with or without you. This is happening with you. What do you need to get there? And it's just so beautiful, like that integrity and that aligned purpose for everyone that's there to come to completion, especially with writing, especially for the first time. It is so necessary. Oh.
Yes. Yeah, the dance between the masculine and the feminine, the deadlines and the flow in the inspiration, and how do we bring them together? You're absolutely right. I remember that moment when I said, you can't wait for inspiration to hit you. You have to call it in. You have to just create that space and be there and get yourself into that mindset, because we can, right? Like we absolutely can do that. And we just have to block out the time and sit down and I know you could do it, because you are, you know, you can meditate, you can go into nature, and then have that intention and calling it in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely one of my shadows, is creating more space and time for myself, for spirit. I mean, to me, I feel like spirit always sort of has been guiding me. I'm a little bit of a loose cannon when it comes to following a strict sort of guideline and purpose and intention. Even, you know, going into medicine and leaving medicine to do coaching, my parents thought, like, what are you thinking? And to me, it was so clear that I wasn't thinking. It's very clear that I wasn't. I was following spirit where I'm meant to be. And so when it comes to actually creating something, we do need that balance of the masculine and the feminine, as you said, that structure, that regularity, that space for what we're creating, that intentional time. You know, a baby doesn't get birthed overnight. It takes 10 months to build it up in your body, right? And so really having that intentional space, that real intimacy with the thing that you're creating. And I think it's different, because I came from that really toxic masculine space of healthcare and medicine, where you don't get to listen to your body. You have to completely reject yourself. You're in a surgery. You can't go to the bathroom right now. You feel like throwing up, you better swallow it, because you're in the middle of doing something so much more important than you, that you don't even exist right now. You just have to do the thing. And so there's just so many layers of self-rejection in that process to come out of, to say, no, this thing is really important and I must hold that space and sanctity for it, even though I can't see it, I can't feel it, I can't touch it, but it is something that wants to come through me. We have to gestate. We have to have the time and space in our lives, in our physical lives. We talk about it esoterically, but it's just like a baby. You don't see all the things that are happening. I mean, I used to teach embryology, so I know all the steps, but when it's inside of you, it's coming to form without you having to do anything, right? But you have to show up for it.
That's right. Yes. Yes. That's really, really beautiful image, that we have to create that space. And it's that reprogramming, right? Because we are not conditioned to put ourselves first. We're conditioned to put ourselves last. And the life is just so busy and everybody is so full. And so often people say, well, I haven't got the time right now.
That's right.
And the really beautiful thing somebody was saying to me today, actually, is we have 24 hours. That's 3 times 8. 8 hours for sleeping, 8 hours for working, and there's actually 8 hours left. What do we do with this 8 hours? And, 4 of them say are for the daily chores that we need to do, driving kids to school, cleaning the house, cooking the meals, going shopping, all of that leaves 4 hours.
Yeah.
If we're really intentional, that can be used for me time. That can be used for writing a book or whatever project is there in that moment. And whilst it may not ever be 4 hours in a block, if we bend things and we get organized, that might be on some days we might be able to carve out 4 hours and have that intentional space. So really the invitation to anybody listening is to figure out where's your time for yourself and what is it that you want to create. The invitation, of course, is to be with your story, so that you can release some of the things where there may still be shame, where you haven't fully claimed it, and use the past on the wounds of the past for the purpose of the future or the present, really. And then if it feels aligned, to write about that, because I feel like there's also so many people who say, well, do I even have a story? I know there's that little niggle. It's like, you should write a book. You should write a book. And you feel like, well, is it enough? Is my life enough? Do I have
Who am
enough to
I?
say?
Who am I to write a book? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we compare ourselves to these big people. And I think, again, this is cultural conditioning. Because when I look at the history of publishing, it came from only pharaohs being able to edge their stories of war and their legacy on the walls of the temples. Right? Then the publishing, there was actually the printing press. And then it was only the clergy and again the royalty that was worthy to share their story, and nobody else's opinion really mattered to be distributed in this way. And now you got the publishing houses, traditional publishing houses, where you have to go through a long application process. You have to have a certain following, you have to have a certain message. And again, it's that external permission piece. And I feel like since, started in the 1980s when the digital printing was created, and it's peaking now. And also with this transition from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, where we're moving from hierarchical power struggles into the more circular way of living, right? Everybody's story matters. We're now in a circle, and everybody's carrying a unique piece of the universe, and the universe it's expressing itself through us in a unique way. So it's now everybody's voice is, we want to hear everybody's voice, no longer that just from the person at the top. And so what we need to do internally is to reclaim and give ourselves permission. We don't no longer externalize waiting for somebody else to give us permission to really express ourselves and write that book that spirit is nudging us to write. And if anybody needs permission, I'm giving it to you right now. You have permission to share your story. Your story matters, your voice matters, and in fact, your wisdom is needed. Because when you write your story, those who are just one step behind you can identify and relate. Whereas if we're hearing it from somebody who's already a guru, we disassociate. So we need both, right? We need the inspiration from somebody who's already made it, and we need the story of the person who's going through it.
That's right.
And hearing that, right? So everybody's story matters.
I just felt full body chills as you were talking about the truth chills came through. And as you were talking about the Aquarian age and coming full circle, and this is even happening. A lot of people say, oh yeah, in the spiritual world, this is happening. No, this is happening everywhere. This is happening in my corporate career. We are going in healthcare transformation on the ground right now in British Columbia. We're moving from voting to consensus decision-making. It's wild. Like this is happening everywhere. Everybody's voice matters. I literally say that almost every single day. If you're in this room, your perspective, your opinion, your story, and your voice matters. Please share. And if it's not out loud, unmuting yourself, share it in the chat, send me an email. But your voice, your perspective is so important. So I just love that this is the new way to be. And that activation, that was an activation right there. I felt it in all of my mind, body, spirit, soul. So anybody who's listening right now, if you've ever heard that little whisper of you should write a book, or even felt curious about your own personal story and how it is meant to actually call you forward into your purpose, this is such a beautiful practice. Even if you never publish anything, it is such a beautiful experience to go through, to meet other people on this journey, and to just be held in this beautiful safety, this pure intention, and just your ability to inspire is beyond coincidence. Krystal, it is truly
Oh,
magical. Yeah.
thank
Um,
you.
I'm really curious if you can share with our audience what you have to bring them into. What are your current offers? How can they work with you? What does that even look like? I mean, I can share my experience and answer some questions maybe from the writer's perspective. But what do you have coming up that people can really take part in and dive into?
Thank you for that. Yeah, so I think the first thing to do is to take the author archetype quiz. It's always really fun to know, well, because people say, well, I'm not an author, I'm not a writer, and you don't need to be. But in that quiz, you identify your archetype as a writer, your strengths and your weaknesses, and some tools to improve your writing or to just be in that. So it's a nice fun way of getting to know yourself in a different way. If you're curious to come into a container, I have another solo book container starting in June. And I'm offering anybody listening who's just that has a curiosity to just come and have a conversation with me to see if that is in alignment, to find out what would you even be writing about. What is the core message that we were talking about? So we're taking, really getting clarity on that. And then also, how does it fit into your life? What is the intention for the book? Because as you know, I'm very strong on setting an intention. It has to make sense. It has to be in alignment. So I will never ever push anybody to do something that doesn't feel right. But if it feels right, I will reflect that back. And then it's up to everybody. So basically what I'm inviting everyone to do is come and have a conversation with me, figure out how a book might fit into your business or into your life, because it's also that transformation for life, right? Like, what is that legacy? And yeah, there's a solo book incubator starting. It's a group program where we're planning and writing a book together in a container.
Beautiful. Oh, that is so beautiful. And you know what, Krystal, I heard this before. I'm meant to create a space for entrepreneurs and people who are really in their purpose, but want to spread their impact. And I had a vision of having you in that container to hold the space for people to write their story as well. So I just want to share that out loud because it was there, and then it was something that kind of fell to the side as something that's going to happen in the future, not right now. But I just want to put this into existence and just share it with you.
That
And
feels really
yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, let's
yeah.
manifest that for
I love
sure.
that. And this is
Is
how
that,
easy it can be. Like
yeah.
literally, this is what authenticity calling is about trusting that voice and honoring it and owning it and sharing it and having it be seen and heard and reflected. And your truth and my truth together just created something that's so impactful. It's going to change so many lives that
Yes.
it is literally that easy.
Yes, because it is all about community now and coming together and inspiring each other and creating this energetic force field that catapults everybody to the next level. That's what it's about now.
Yes,
Yes,
co-creation. That's it. I
that's
love it.
it.
Yes.
That's
Even the
it. Yes.
CEO of our corporate company said co-creation. And I was like, am I in the twilight zone? Did this just happen? Yes, it's literally happening everywhere. It's undeniable. I love it.
Oh, it's perfect. It's
Yeah.
perfect. So is there anything else, Ralitza, that you want to add to this conversation or would like to share with anybody who's kind of curious or thinking about, well, is this for me? Should I do this? Is there any other nuggets of wisdom that you want to share from your experience?
Yeah, I would say if you're still listening, like if you've heard this entire conversation and you're still listening, reach out to Krystal. Even if you have never had a single intention of writing, just connect with her, just have a conversation and see where it goes, because it might be that level of alignment and awakening that you need to move into the next step on your journey. And there are so many people, so many healers, so many coaches, so many people in the space that offer those connection calls. And from the people that I know, they are so in integrity with service. And Krystal, you are obviously one of those people that there are no strings attached. Like that conversation is simply just a conversation. It can activate you into all sorts of places, and it will be a springboard for you to come into integrity with yourself. So even if you have no intention in writing, I urge you, if you're still listening, because this is divinely aligned, and I know that anyone that's called to this space to hear this is intended to connect. I know, because that's what happens in my world. I jokingly say, I'm a genie in a bottle. If if you have something coming through, tell me. And if it's in integrity, it will just start to happen. That catalyst energy, it's here, and you're the activator. And so absolutely, if anyone's listening, please book a call, check your author archetype, do the thing, just do that, take that bold step in any direction that feels aligned for you, and just watch the magic happen. So Krystal, oh my goodness, thank you. I am so excited. I'm actually like, I know I'm meant to work with you for Authenticity Calling, the book, because of course you're the one that called me forward to even do this. So I'm very excited to dive in with you. I don't think I committed to you yet, but this is my live commitment. It's in the world. Thank you for creating this space, for holding this space, for being this vessel of transformation. And I'm just so inspired, and yeah, so happy, so grateful, so honored.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's just a pleasure and a joy, and divinely aligned as always. So thank you for all you do and for listening to the call.
Thank you. So happy.